Guys, today is day 84. 84 of the 100 Days of LeetCode. We got a medium problem, swap nodes and pairs. Let's do it. So we're given a linked list and we want to swap every two adjacent nodes and return its head. Now you must solve the problem without modifying the values in the list's nodes. So we have to swap the nodes themselves. Okay, we can't just swap the numbers. That'd be a lot easier, but we can't do that. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4 becomes 2, 1, 4, 3. Okay, so we take this pair, we swap it, we take that pair, we swap it. Now notice that when we have no nodes, obviously we don't do anything. When we have one node, we also can't swap that node. Now that would apply also to situations where there's an odd number of nodes, so there'd just be, the last node itself would be left out and wouldn't be involved in any swapping. So let's solve this problem. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a current, basically a pointer, and it's going to start off at the head. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check whether or not there is a current, and we're also going to check whether or not there is a current.next. Now if one of these two things are missing, so it'd be either both are missing or just the current.next is missing. We want to just return our current. I mean, we could also do return head here, right? But you could do either one. But the reason why we're just doing that is because it's like these two examples, right? There's nothing that we're doing. We're not swapping any of them. We're just returning the list the way it currently is. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to basically create a swap node, and that's going to be equal to current.next, and we're going to create a previous node, and that's going to be equal to our head, or you can also do our current. Now the last thing we got to do before we enter sort of our loop is we got to save the value of our current swap, because after our loop we are going to return final. And the reason being is because basically this swap node, if we were to look at example 1, right now it's basically this node right here, right? And of course this is going to switch and become sort of the new head of the list. So that's why we're saving it here, and then we're returning it after our loop. Okay, so we do that, and now we can write our loop. Our loop is going to keep going until one of these two things are missing. So if we're ever missing, I guess, and again, it's the same as up here, we'll either be missing both of them or just current.next. If we're missing either of those, we're not going to keep going, because we'd run into a situation where we have either one node left or 0 nodes left, and of course in either of those situations we can't do any swapping. So that's why we're writing our while loop like that. Now we're going to check whether or not there's a current.next. So right now, essentially in each iteration of this loop, we're going to be operating on two different nodes, right? But beyond those two different nodes, there's going to be a node over here, which is our current.next. Okay, and we want to check whether or not that's equal to none. And if it's not equal to none, we're going to create the next variable, and basically it's going to function kind of like a pointer to current.next. And then of course there's an else block, and if we enter the else block, the next is going to be equal to none. And again, the reason why we're doing that is because we're going to need to know this value to basically move on to our next pair of nodes to swap. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to basically first update our swap. Okay, so our swap, like up here, is going to be equal to current.next, and our swap.next is going to be equal to current. So let's say 4 is our swap node, or let's say 4, we're on the pair of nodes 3 and 4. We're first going to take our swap node and set it equal to 4, and then our swap.next is going to be set equal to current, right? So now this 4 points to 3. So what we need to do is we need to take this node and point it to 4. Now this node is basically our previous .next node, right? We set our previous here, and we're going to essentially take this and we're going to have to reroute that to point at 4. So the way we can do that is we can say previous dot next is equal to swap. Okay. So again, we're taking this previous node and we're pointing it to our swap node. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to take our previous node and we need to point it to current, right? So essentially, this 3 is becoming our current over here. So we need to make sure that this is now represented sort of in our variables. It's held in previous. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to say current is equal to the next. And we also need to update previous.next to be current, which is essentially the next as well. Because once this 3 is over here, it needs to point over here, right? Now in this case, we have no node over here. So because we have none, this would return false and we wouldn't enter this loop the next time. And then of course we would just return final. But if this list were to extend, then this just keeps going and going and going until this returns false. And we return final, and that should be working code. Okay, so I noticed my mistake. Essentially, way back up here on line 11, it needs to be if not current or not current dot next, right? Because if it's just if not current or current dot next, then we're just going to return it up here, right? And that's why, I don't know if you noticed, but before the answer was giving sort of nothing happened to the list. So it needs to be or not current dot next. My mistake. And there you go. So that's how you solve that one. That was day 84 of the 100 Days of LeetCode. We got another 16 days to go. If you enjoyed that, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you Monday. Take care.